And I've got a lot to share with you. I was riding down the road back in November, and I had this idea for this presentation, and I said, this is really something I have a passion to write about and to work on. And it isn't one of your standard presentations because it isn't just going to be me telling you my thoughts and what I'm doing. It's actually basically surveys and some things that I did to pull this information together. So let's talk about a little bit about me. If you were in our course yesterday, I've been at Lowe's for 19 years. I've been in IT for 20 years. So almost all of my life at Lowe's Home Improvement, if you don't know us. I will tell you that my opinions are my own, not my company's. I'm not here to represent them. And I've had several roles. I've been in tech support, I've been a developer, I moved into the program management office, and I moved into development as a manager, back to development. And I moved into a test manager role, and it's a passion of mine. One of the things you're going to see in this presentation is there is a lot of passion for testing, more than I've seen in any other profession, I believe. And the reason that I say that is the survey that I took, a lot of people were given a lot of information that said, I have a passion for testing. I'm passionate about it. It's my passion. So, I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say about that as well. Member of several articles that Software Test Pro. If you're not a member there, you can definitely join for free. You can pay to be a pro member, which is also really good because you can download articles and a ton of information out on this website. The way I got into all of this was I met a guy named Matt Poiser who reached me through Twitter and wanted to interview me for Ask the Tester. I was in his column. Less than a year later, he resigned from that position and gave it to me. So now I'm doing the column, and I just did my first one. I mean, you should be able to see that out there if you go to Software Test Pro. Wrote an article on why do I need regression testing. If you come to the STP in October, I've got a presentation I'm doing there, which I haven't started yet, but I will be done in 6 months. And then building a successful test center of excellence. I wrote an article about that, and I've presented that last October. And I presented it here, and I presented it again in October. So I actually presented that in a lot of places. It's kind of my road show of presentations. So our agenda for today, we're going to talk about job descriptions, why I did this, why in the world would I do this. I've asked that question early this morning. We're going to look at the survey. I talked to some experts. I really got some really good people where I think if you know the people in the industry, I think you're really going to like to see what they've had to say. I did a survey. Anyone take the survey that I did? I had almost 300 people take that survey online. It's awesome. Thanks to SurveyMonkey. I paid them to do it. They thanked me for that. Got some leadership advice for anybody that is a test manager. One of the things I started to do before I realized that I'd rather teach about testing was I wanted to just teach leadership, mentoring, coaching. I've got a slide for that interests you. And then just some takeaways of the survey, and then just some ideas on how to stay relevant. So is there a job description? When I did some of this research, I had a lot of input from people. And it was really, really serious inputs. Test managers are involved in planning. They're involved in understanding the overall scope. Proficient in communication skills. They're front line of contact, representative for the testing, kind of the face of testing. They support the testing team, and this is any manager role, is just blocking time-consuming discussions, identifying training needs, and setting up objectives. I'm going a little bit fast. If you're writing, I can give you a link at the end where you can actually pull this whole presentation. Strong understanding of software development lifecycle. I think that's critical because you need to understand how development in general works and SDLC works so you can integrate your testing in there. Ability to handle conflict. You may have that ability. Understanding of the products. Understanding of the tools and methodologies. There's a lot, and it just continues to grow. Encourage consistencies in the process. Responsible for reporting status of your testing, one of the roles. It must be adaptable. Change is constant in our world. Okay, now let's talk about reality. You must be able to deliver the product on time, without scope, right? With delays in development, limited budget, limited test team members, a reduction in test coverage, just so we can meet the deadlines because development was late. You got to be able to allow the stakeholders to override you. You got to be able to handle highly demanding customers, willing to accept poor code quality, don't we all? Required to justify the existence of testing. We have to do that all the time. And you got to be ready to take blame. These are all things people give me in the survey on LinkedIn and blog sites, and then this is not me. Got to have a high tolerance to pain. Definitely. And you got to be, comfortable being viewed as overhead. And this was literally somebody giving me this input. A doctorate in psychology is preferred. So, I'm starting to believe that. So why did I do it? Like I said, I'm asking them anything else. I noticed that in most organizations, probably yours and definitely in mine and many others, there are gaps. People disagree on things, people don't agree on the same things. You think this way, your peers think that way. Until you get an alignment there, you're not going to be successful as an organization. And your stakeholders are going to see that. And you're not going to be able to grow and to gain that respect from the team. So I wanted to look at the gaps. I wanted to talk about personal experience with some folks out there. Also wanted to look at the disparity between what's in the book versus what's in the real world. We read books on here's how you do testing, here's the process, here's the entry criteria, the exit criteria, and then we hear, here's how I do it. And I heard a lot of people telling me, here's how I do it. Create an awareness of the similarities and differences in the testing community. A lot of people thought a lot of different ways. I created this survey and I had in my mind, here's how they're going to answer it, and over here's how they answer it. So it was eye-opening in a lot of places. If I don't do anything when I leave this presentation, I want to encourage you that it's not about studying the books. It's not about being textbook good at testing. It's about what is the community doing? What is the world doing? There is a lot of activity going on out there, and if you're not aware of it, it's eye-opening to hear about it. I was in a conference last week where someone asked one of the presenters asked the question, do you know about the Software Testing Club? Do you know about these websites that are out there? People are saying, no, I don't. And it's kind of like, where am I? And I think you guys have heard of some of these places. Continue to reach out and look. There's places on LinkedIn. There's places on Twitter. You can really get integrated in the process. If it ain't broke, you may know the finish line to that sentence. If it ain't broke,
don't fix it.
Don't fix it. I was stealing from a guy who wrote a book named Jason Jennings, who came to my company 2 weeks ago, and I told him I was going to steal it. He said if it ain't broke, everybody said don't fix it. He said that's the stupidest thing ever. Because why not fix it before it is broken? Because once it's broke, you're already in trouble. What I'm hoping to do here is kind of highlight some of the things that there's going to probably happen to you and has happened to people and they've had experiences on it. And I want to show it to you before it is broke, so you can get ahead of it and be proactive. So my response is, if it ain't broke, it will break. And we know that. That's Murphy's Law. So how did I get the data? Kind of mentioned a few of that. I reached out to 10 experts in the field. One of them's here and he's recording me. And so it makes me even more nervous that he's here, much less recording. But,
I'm recording it for you, though.
Yeah, I'll get it. Thank you. Thank you very much. And the weird thing is, a couple of the experts were people that just weren't experts. I put some things out on LinkedIn, I put some things on my blog, and I had some people give some really good answers. And I said, you win. You get to be with the experts, and we use some of their information. So they become a, nominated expert. Like I said, I did the survey. I did a blog. We had some people come out and answer some questions. I'm in multiple LinkedIn groups. If you're not on LinkedIn, you should be. If you are, add me. I love new friends. And then see what I'm following, see what these other guys are following, and start following these groups. A lot of good discussions going on there. You can get engrossed in it. You'll stop watching TV. You'll spend your time. Not true. Twitter discussions. I will tell you, I'm amazed with some of the things that are going on Twitter, and there are a few people who make my Twitter experience very exciting, and they're in this room. I'm going to tell you who they are. They were on the Keynote panel. And so the discussions that go back and forth, people are relentless, and I love it. And I love it that people are passionate about what they're doing, and I'm happy to be part of that. And I don't step in there because I'm careful not to step in unless I know what I'm talking about. I'm letting the experts talk. I let the people talk. So I've been on, 5 or 6 plane rides in the last couple of weeks, and I hear this is your captain speaking. What I want to tell you is, this is your data speaking. This is all data that people gave me. This is not my opinion. This is not for you to have an opinion. I mean, you can tell me what your opinion is. I'll be glad to talk about it. But all of this stuff that's following here is really the opinion of the people that give me an enormous amount of data. And of all the presentations I've done in the past, this one took me 4 months literally just to compile and put together. And I was working on it even until last night. So. You know that day before you go on vacation and you can't sleep because you're excited about what you're going to do? I'm hoping this goes as good as I was hoping 4 months ago, 6 months ago that it would go, but I'm excited to show you some of the things that we're going to be doing here. So the experts. The pictures these are some of the people I reached out to very quickly. I said, I've got to get this together. These guys answered 3, and Andy's back to see Andy. I asked them 3 questions. They answered them in detail. Some of them very, very detailed. I'm going to give you some pieces of that. It's a lot of data. And what I'm hoping to do after this conference, it's not ready just yet, but you can go to my blog site. I'm going to put some information out there where you can get this. If you're interested in seeing all of that, I'm going to compile it all together. I just haven't had a chance to put it all together. But I want you to see all of the enormous amount of data that we've got there. It's just. I'm going to be able to give you a piece of it. So I asked them 4 questions. One on the test manager's role. What are the significant challenges that they're facing today? Talking to them about people management. A funny story to tell you there. And then conflict resolution. How do we handle conflict? What's the test manager's role? Anybody got this app? An iOS? I've loved these successory things for years. Now there's an app to take a picture you want, put it in there, and you say, you'll see that throughout this presentation. So, what is the test manager? Michael Bolton, not the singer. I'll do that quickly. The testing guy. He says it's to coordinate and enable testing work. He said a lot more stuff too. Like I said, you can see all that in detail. But it's really about making sure that you coordinate it, you report it, and you reveal timely, quality-related information. He calls himself an investigative reporter. He doesn't cause the problem, he doesn't fix the problem, he tells you what is the problem and reports the problem. Michael Larson, who is here, I don't think he's here, but he's here teaching this week, or speaking this week. He said the test manager has 2 hats, the people part, the actual testing part, and they need to balance those 2. And one thing that Michael said, and I've heard it before, but for him to say it kind of struck me, we can't test everything, we can't even test a small part of it. True, agreed. I did these expert interviews before I'd started my survey. I wanted to get their inputs to kind of help guide what I was doing. And the one thing that this did was make me ask the question on the survey, can you test everything? You'll be surprised what people said. Rex Black. He's in the back corner right there. He said, it's inward, outward, and upward. Inward is your management, project management. Outward is your communication. Upward is your ability to influence, because testing is not the most popular activity. I think we agree. Jerry Weinberg, he says he sees managers without teams, teams without managers, and a variation of those. And he thinks we should reserve manager for someone who's actually managing, which is Scott agrees. Doug Hoffman, and I'm glad Rex is here because I want Rex to see. Doug Hoffman did the same thing. I think you guys shared notes. But he changed one of the words. I think it was, let's see, inward, outward, upward. He said upward, outward, downward. It's the same thing.
I don't consider my team downward.
Yeah. So it's very similar. There's an irony here I can't get into today. But understanding what they need, educating them, gaining information, advocating these resources. And then down the front row here with the camera, Scott says it should be a matrix manager, where they can manage people, oversee, coach, direct their testers, serve as an executive champion, and a translator. Oh, he gave me so much more stuff. Didn't put it all there. Andy Tinkham is in the back here. He says the role as a facilitator, discover what risks are important, ensuring the team is used efficiently, communicating the status, and giving feedback to the team. And Elfriede, I think is how they say her name. I thought it was Elfriede, it wasn't Elfriede to me. She had an interesting look at this. She said it was, the manager is like a goalie. You know, the goalie in soccer, they kind of feel responsible for the offensive goal. So if we've got defects in production, the manager would feel judged by the number of high priority defects that went live. And I thought that was interesting because I think she's talking about conflict and challenges that we have, trying to understand who is responsible for the issues that we've got. So when we talk about the challenges that test managers face every day, this is some of the people I work with. Matt Heuser, he's here this week. He said that one of the challenges is that, the test manager has one boss but many stakeholders. And the biggest problem is that management, senior management, the company itself does not clearly define what a manager is expected to do. I heard this throughout and throughout. More than I could put in this presentation, people were saying managers and or test managers don't really have the right responsibilities defined. And that's something, I'm not going to define it for you today, so no worries there. But I am going to tell you, I don't know if we can define it. It depends. And Vanessa, as I mentioned, she's one of our honorary experts. I met her, don't know her, met her on LinkedIn, but she said we're in the middle, create order from chaos, we sit in the very middle of change. I love it that she said at some point in time someone's going to care enough about the project to listen to what you're saying, not just the deadlines. So I told her she wins. She gets an honorary expert invitation. Doug says there's technical, communications, and political. Technical is understanding testing, understanding the technical content. Communications is being able to talk with people. That's probably a bigger role in testing and test management, is being able to communicate more than any other position. I mean, everybody needs to communicate. It's critical in our role. And then political understanding is just, they got political games going on at your office? I don't. Scott says, and I love this, it's undertrained, underpowered, underinformed. We have an unbalanced accountability. And we've got job description that do not mesh or complement the overall goals of the project. I can't agree more. Rex says the test manager role is one of the most difficult. It doesn't really vary, and I do agree with that. It doesn't really vary as much as we think it does. There's more commonalities than disparities there. And Jerry Weinberg says the number one challenge is there's no clear understanding of what a test manager is. And But he does say that we do get to be the scapegoat, and that's true. What are the challenges? Andy says, we've got conflicting vision of what the software should do and how it should work. Agreed. There's a reluctance to share information. There's a note he had here on developers are scared to tell you that there's an issue or that this might be a problem because they don't want to get in trouble, they don't want to look like they don't know what they're doing, they don't want it to be reported on, so they kind of keep us to figure it out. It happens. Getting meaningful results to communicate, figuring out what that is, how do we do that? Interpersonal, intrapersonal differences. Team member allocation, that's a big struggle. My organization is making sure that we got people that can do the job. Everybody's asking for help and I don't have enough people to do it. Us versus them. It's happening. And then blame. Why didn't the test team catch this? I laughed when the guy in the keynote said that exact phrase this morning. I said, he's stealing my stuff. Andy, you stole your comment. And then justify the priorities. That happens. I do it every time between these presentations. I got to go back and justify somebody's priorities at work. So how important is the people skills? I'll tell you, Michael Bolton told me, and I laughed, and I talked to him afterwards. He told me that that's a unicorn question. That's obvious. People skills are important. So I didn't quote him, other than just telling you what he said. And he says we don't manage tests, we manage testers. If someone doesn't have people management skills, they're a test lead, not a test manager. In too many organizations, we have people that want to be a test manager role. They got the title, but they don't really do the position. Rex says a person without these skills is unlikely to be successful as a test manager. Very true. Very true. Doug, felt with people management and the test organization will almost certainly fall. Yeah. And then Michael says the worst feeling is to be given no direction and then to only get feedback at seriously infrequent times. You're doing it wrong. Again, I wish you were here because I want to tell him this is two things that he gave me input that I put in the survey because I wanted to ask people, are you getting clear direction in your office? But then I turned around and said, are you giving clear direction in your office? You'll be surprised at the output of that two questions. Melissa Tongue is another one of our honorary experts because she had written a book here. And the thing that, we've heard it before, but we're doing a disservice to the term manager, thinking that they're just because they're a manager, they're it's not true, it doesn't happen. You got to understand someone's hard skills as well as their soft skills, and you got to remove the blocks when they can't. That's very critical.
So imagine I want to tell you a story about my last weekend.
These are my kids. This is my sweet daughter who, within 30 seconds, can go from good to bad. Very unhappy that my son is hugging her. But I did it to put a quote from someone that says, what other job can you be loved and hated at the same time? So, and that's her. So, Jerry Weinberg, I like his major conflict zone, and he says that the major conflict is that people believe that without testers there wouldn't be any errors. There are people who believe that, and you'd be surprised. Michael Bolton says that revealing information, it's about testing is about revealing information about the product, decisions about qualities, or he's actually quoting, funny, he's quoting the guy up here. He says that decisions about quality are always political and emotional. And I've talked to Michael a couple of times, and he always says this to me. Every time I talk to him, I think he brings that up. So I thought I'd quote him. But he says, be in political emotion, yet a test manager would need political acumen. And beautiful last quote here. Test managers who see themselves as gatekeepers will often be a party to various kinds of unhappiness until they realize that testing is not quality assurance, testing informs it.
So abstractions help us make our testers more reliable.
Melissa comes back. She says, whether testing adds value, it's an age-old conflict about whether testing adds value or not. That's one of the things is there a need for it? And there's no need for manual type tests because automation can replace the individual. I mean, people have heard that. Automation can just fix everything. I've heard it. Rex says if the test manager has conflict zone, the test manager is already failing. I agree. 2 more. Doug says conflict zones are generally not necessary. It takes the common ground, understanding the common ground and emphasizing it. And Andy says it's about, he says a lot here, and I put it all here because I wanted you to see it when you download the writing, but it's critical here. Relationships and trust. If you don't have trust in your team, in your group, with your stakeholders, you're going to fail. I mean, I've worked in organizations with groups that just didn't have that trust. If you don't have the trust, you're not going to get better until you can learn how to trust each other. Matt says, and there's still a lot of flack between dev and test. We're going to talk about some of the environments issues that people have. They mentioned it in the keynote again. Tell them to stop stealing my presentation. And then Michael says, there's 3 types. It depends on the organization type. There's a small, medium, and large organizations. Smaller are going to suffer from lack of oversight. Larger is going to suffer from bureaucracy, inefficient process, and then your in between are going to be squeezed to do as much as possible with as little as they can. And testing is the easiest target because when things go bad, you're going to want to get them. And then Scott says, I love this. And he got his own page. Outside of software, where do we hear people with title that includes test? Test pilot, taste tester, crash test dummy was the one I loved. And it's true because until our testers think of themselves as someone or seen as separate in any way, think of themselves as or seen separate in any other way from development. That's the heart of the problem. The simple fact that testers think of themselves as or seen as separate in any way from development is part of the problem because people think they're different. I took some comments out in the survey where people saying we feel like we're second-class people in the organization. We feel like that we're the last ones to get told what things are going. And we don't have to feel that way. And we got to inform our people that they don't have to feel that way because we're part of the organization. The guy said it this morning. It's a team thing. It's not a us versus them. So let's talk a little bit about the responses and the trends. 26 minutes. Good. Are you male or female? That was my first question. 72% male. I don't know what that means. I just wanted you to know demographically, these are the people that are taking it. Now, let me show you quickly the bug in SurveyMonkey software, which I told them about. Now, I told them it was ironic I was doing a testing survey on test managers and work their software. This is their output, their graphs that they gave. And you can make your questions required or optional. This question was required, but they still said 274 answered and 1 skipped. I said, nobody can skip that question. So every picture you see, you're going to see 1 skipped. I thanked them because I said, you make my presentation a little more enlightening. That there's our issues out there. Things working. I was shocked. I got a ton of people on my blog site. I was shocked 36 countries took this survey. And I was people from everywhere. And I was thrilled because I got a lot of different types of insights from these guys. Your current role, if you're in the back, this may be small. I tried to make this as big as I could. Most of the people were test managers, 70%. There were a lot of people who put things in other. They wanted to tell me their real title, senior test manager or test manager of the world, or something, something crazy. And so I would say most of that 12% is up here. So you're about 82% of the people were test manager roles. Your employment status, I was a little surprised there. I also asked my contractors who work with me why they didn't take the survey. But almost 80% of the people were full-time. I was also a little surprised with the almost 8% of people are unemployed right now, but they still took my survey. And thanks to them for doing that. How did you get started? I wanted to understand, because in my organization, we started a testing group and then we started pulling people from everywhere. And I can tell you a little bit about that tomorrow on a Testing Center of Excellence class I've got. But, you don't just start a group and say, I want to hire all testers. Most of the time you're starting a group and you're pulling them in from other directions. So I wanted to find out if that was true everywhere. So these people were saying that was by choice. I gradually progressed into the role, 51%. By need, I was pushed into it. Didn't really want to. People out there that don't want to do it, but they're there. 17%. And then my career's always been QA, which I thought was very interesting, 30% of the people. And when you see how many years a lot of these people have been here, I mean, this data isn't just new people to testing. You'll see that, how long have you been in IT? 73% of these people have been in IT for over 11 years. Which is great data to have experts and people that are veterans in the field. Almost 53% of those guys have been in testing and QA for 11 years or more. Number of direct reports was really surprising to me. I wouldn't say, at one time I had 200 contractors working for me, but they were working for somebody who was working for me in the vendor. I had people over here in this more than 25 that were saying, I got 200 people, I got 500 people. That number, that's 8%, 7% was a lot larger than I thought it would be. To me, I think if you get into that 1 to 5 or that 6 to 10, that's really where you're going to be able to manage a team. It's hard to manage more than 5 people. How do you spend your time? Man, we could spend some time looking at this. These were 5 different questions and then 2 extra ones at the bottom. I wanted to just understand, and after I did it, after the survey was done, I thought I could have done this differently. I in a sheet that it must add to 100 because people were just guessing some of the numbers there. So, but they would give me good numbers. I was trying to get an understanding. How much time do you spend in planning? The majority of the folks are spending about a quarter of their time in planning, but some are still almost spending half their time. People management, you still got a lot right in here, less up in the full time. Communicating, kind of spread out across 25% to 50%. Managing test execution, still under 50%. So people kind of split it out. Everybody on each of these. I spend a lot of time in meetings. Anybody spend a lot of time in meetings? This is Death by Meeting. There's a book called Death by Meeting. If you haven't read it, you should read it. Patrick Lencioni, it's great. This one got me. This one woke me up. This one made me say, I'm going to keep doing this for 4 more months. I'm going to wrap it up and I'm going to present it to people someday. Because 21 people say, I don't do any process improvement, not planning to, and I don't want to. 190 of the 275 people said, I only do it 25% of the time. I'm surprised that organizations are not doing it more than that. And then selling the value of testing, 75 people said, we're good. Our stakeholders are happy, we're good, we're set. Nobody, they love us. I don't know where those companies are, but I would like to work with them. Role of test managers, I was shocked at this one. Maybe not too shocked. I talking to some of the experts, talking to some of the folks. There's an opinion out there. You probably have one side or the other of this. Test managers should or should not be doing execution. I asked the question, test managers they're not doing the execution. The engineers are doing it. 28% said that's the way my company does it. I was shocked that 21% said, yeah, they're part of the testing. They're doing testing along with managing. And then, a little bit shocked, but understandable, 49% said, well, if I have to, I will. Which says, I know testing and know how. I probably said the same thing. I don't want to, as a test manager. But, you know, it's good to know how. I heard someone present a presentation last week that said, to be really effective as a test leader, sometimes you need to sit down with your guys once a week and just say, show me how you do it. You'll find out 2 things. One, you'll learn if they really are doing it well or not. And the other is you'll find out kind of maybe they're doing something different that you can learn to help others on the team. So hey, it is good to do that. I had a lot of people debate over this, different organizations, different groups that I've been part of. You know, whether or not people make better test managers if they come from a background in development. A little bit surprised that it's almost, I wouldn't say even, but it's 59 to 40. Yes, it's good. I don't know what that tells us much there. Exactly as I expected on this question. What do you think, what skill do you think is the most important? I mean, obviously you would think test management and communication are pretty heavy. The same people said people management was pretty important. Those are experts, I guess. A lot of people say people management is not very important here. Handling exceptions is more critical. And this is the, again, this is the Michael Larson invoked question. Is the role clearly defined? And if you notice, 43% said no. It's not defined in my organization. We haven't defined it very well. We don't know. I'll tell you, I can't tell you. It's not defined in a lot of places. Is it centralized? This is the one that got me. So, raise of hands. How many people have, now, if you want to understand centralized and integrated, what I mean by that is, in my organization, we have a centralized testing group. That testing group supports, managers support different parts of the retail business, different parts of .com and area, but there's one central group. We all are part of one group. So that's centralized. The integrated would mean you have one group with one leader over here doing this group, one over here, one over here. So, show of hands, how many of you guys are centralized? Most of them? How many are integrated where you have different things? Okay. So, I guess we're pretty, I mean, it's pretty close here as well. I was just shocked by that. And then, you know, it's 51 to 48. I would have thought it would have, in my mind, I thought it would have been centralized, but it was very, very good information, I thought. How often do you speak to your customers? I'm a little bit shocked that 44% said daily. Good day. I mean, you should, but I'm just... You know, between daily and once a week, we had, that's, I don't know, 76%. That's good. What stages of measurement or metrics of the program are you in? Now, this one I use to help. I mean, this is one of the things I thought of when I said I'm going to do this, is I want to find out, do you have no program at all? 23% of the people, 64 people out of the 274 said, I don't have anything. No metrics program, it's nothing. 32% said, I've got it, but there's no improvement. It's not really doing anything for me. 32%. So you only have 44% here. 44% are saying, I got it, it works well, it's really helping me out. It's a good program. Shocked. I use this graph because I can use different pictures. I paid good money for Survey Monkey, so I'm proud of every picture they've got. I was shocked on defect management. That it's one of the areas that doesn't need training at all. Maybe we think we're really good at that. I would bet that our stakeholders and some of the people that say we're probably not as good as we are. There's almost a three-way tie here, although automation always comes up heavy. We need more training there. We just need to understand it. How do you ensure you're doing the right things? One of the things that I had in my organization is I started a group for governance. Because I said, we can't expect the development team to do a good job of delivering to us if we can't figure out how our own house looks inside. So let's have a governance process to make sure that we're doing everything. We've got a checklist. We've got all of the documentation that we're supposed to have, so that when they come to us, our noses are clean, we look good, we're doing the right things. And so I asked everyone, how do you ensure that you're doing it right? How do you ensure that your testing organization is doing the right things? One was an internal governance process, 37%. Happy to see that. Trainings and white papers, I threw it out there just to see if anybody was actually doing that. And then 47%, which I like, are saying we take surveys. Let me tell you, anybody got unhappy stakeholders that think you're a bad part of their organization? Let them review your vendors. Let them review the vendors that are testing for you if you have vendors testing for you. They'll tell you right quick how well things are going, and that gives you a very good picture of how you're doing as an organization. They're not shy, by the way. You get a survey put out, they will tell you very quickly. If it's anonymous, it's even better. How many conferences did this for the STP guys? Kind of sad though. 41% say 0. You guys are not in that part of the pie. Because you're in 1 to 5. 53%, which I was happy to see. That I got some people out here, we got 7 people who say they go to 10. I don't work where they work. Although I've been to 3. I mean, because I won't tell you. This is another one I really like. I asked, how critical is keeping relevant and up to date with technology processes to your organization? very happy that 82% said it's pretty critical. I mean, maybe they answered it because they thought that's the way it should answer it, but I'm surprised that 17% said it's not critical at all. I'm a dinosaur. Who said dinosaur today? Somebody did. And I don't need to improve. We'll just keep doing it the way we've always done it. That'll get you in trouble, by the way. I'll tell you what I'm saying.
Angels will bring you shelter.
Complete the sentence. Now, I did this to see if anybody would bite it. You know, as a test manager, I feel respected. 49% said I feel respected. Everybody here feel respected at work? I don't. Disliked. 2%. That was honesty right there. They hate me. 6% said they hate me. And then I give them an out. I said, sometimes they like me, sometimes they don't like me. You know, okay, this goes back to that quote that someone gave me. And it's, what other job can you be loved and hate at the same time? They 48%. So that's a pretty good survey. What methods do you use to show the value of testing? Using your measurement program. Now, if you remember 2 slides back, 48% of the people said, I use metrics like crazy, it shows the value of the company. But now 16% said, that ain't how I show that. You notice that? Anybody? Focus on the reduction in work. These guys were, and I give them that ability. I wanted to lean that way, and it went the way I wanted it to. But it's looking at, it's not about metrics. It's not about giving a number. It's not about showing a number, although they are important. It's about showing value, showing that you're simplifying your process, that you're improving the quality. These guys get it. We're removing the defects early in the software development lifecycle. These two together account for 84%. That's a good reason to show, a good way to show your value. Now I did this because I had a personal discussion about this, and there was a debate over it. Does the organization for testing have a decision to make this go or no go to production? And it's diverse. I'm happy. I won the battle. I showed this to the person I was debating with. But I mean, we should be able to stop it. We're reporters. We should say, were there issues? Hey, we are going to really hurt the company if you release this to production. We got a lot of say-so. We can escalate. We can raise it. But to be able to be accountable for that decision, my opinion, and this is one part of the presentation to get my opinion, is that we are responsible for reporting that and then saying, this is bad. If you do it, Michael Bolton gave me this. He said, if you're in the car, they're driving, they own the driving. You can step on their feet. That's not going to do any good. You need to tell them, we've got to stop the car. We're going the wrong direction. So, very pleased, 82%. It is an exciting response, I thought. But, then 17% say, we do. And I've talked to people at a conference a week ago that said, I want to have that decision. I want to be able to say yes or no, we are not going to allow you to go. I had 3 things that I just asked people's opinion on. Do you think that QA is involved early enough in the project? Around 70% said yes. Do you think QA is provided with adequate testing resources? Half and half, almost. Sometimes I get it. And then deadline takes precedence over the quality of the deliverables. We're looking at 60% of the people that are saying that. I would bet that's probably higher. Some people are probably scared the boss would see. I shouldn't guess on numbers. Numbers speak. But this. Do you believe it's possible to test everything? 20 people. I can test everything. Maybe you can. Maybe where they work you can. Maybe they make pizzas or something. I don't know. If you work for a pizza company or something, they want that. I mean, making pizza, not software around the pizza. This one was my fun one. I did it on purpose. Then I have something to admit after I tell you this. And my organization will give them clear direction. 42% said no. The same people said, no, I give good direction. I give it. So then I took this survey, I would keep calling it a quiz. And when I got to those 2 questions, I did the same thing. And I was like, why do we do that? Why do we do that? Why do we feel like that? oh, they're stupid above me, but hey, I know what I'm doing. You know? So, this was eye-opening to me. So I had my presentation ready, and I was going to tell you just what I said. Then I had to say, no, I'm just as dumb as everybody else. Not dumb. Can't say that for kids. So why did you want to be a test manager? This is one of the discussion questions. And I got 173 out of the 274 people who wrote me a book. And I loved it. I got a lot of stuff. I found these sticky notes. You know, sticky notes, the little yellow ones? I found these big blue ones and you can put them on your wall. So nobody's happy in my house because my house was covered across the walls with all these sticky notes. And I looked like a serial killer because I was cutting out all these responses and figuring out which ones I was going to show you. I've got a picture of it if anybody wants to see it after presentation. It's a lot of fun. It's tiring. But I used it. This is the one I showed you. What other job can you be loved and hated at the same time? Whoever wrote that, I love them. That was one of my favorites. I'm going to put that on my wall at work. And that picture. Nothing great. Emerson says nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. And I got a ton of responses on that's my passion. I love it. I love doing it. I think I went to sleep and I actually typed this in. Whoever this is has my life. This is what happened to me. I was given an opportunity to go to a training. I just selected a testing course. Went to Florida. It was great. The guy taught me, Rick Craig, taught me on systematic software testing. I sat in his class. I was the only development manager in the room, and everybody's talking about development managers like we are, you know, in a way. And it changed my life. I come back and said, we either get a testing group here where I work, or I'm going to leave and go where they have one, because I want to do this. This person is just like me. I thought it was interesting. That's why I put it there. So now you know my story, even if you didn't know my story. Testing is my passion. Now, when I started putting these discussion questions together, I wanted to show you what I would say, oh, these are good, and these are not so good. This is good, and we hear people say it. And if you think for a second, you probably agree with it, but then when you really think about it, this is not a good way to feel all the time. You don't want to be confrontational. You don't want to have your guard up. You know, I'm going to stop it, please. I'm out to do it. And that's the way they feel about us anyways. It's hard enough to not be felt that way by the development and the stakeholders anyway, than to really feel that way. You know, at the end they did say I enjoy the customer, each time a customer says we have less escalations, but I love blocking releases. I love forcing them to shape their product better. That's a tough person right there. Now, I interviewed a guy 6 years ago, and I asked him, why do you want to be in testing? He said, I like to break things. Okay. I hired him because he likes to break things. I told that to Rex Black, and he said, we don't break anything. They break it. We just... You get credit for it, Rex. Why do you want to be a test manager? Let's talk about this one. What I saw inside of the all the 100 responses was kind of a core. I like working with people. I like integrating with people. I like communicating with people. I like the interpersonal side. And now, like I said earlier, there's more to that in the testing profession, I believe, than there is in the others. Developers can hide in a room and get it done. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying that's how they can operate. We have to be out there working with the different groups. I enjoy working with people and standing up processes. It's something that, to me, in doing the survey, it kind of stood out that we're a different set of people. We're our own kind. It's my passion. I like to communicate with people, including clients and peers. I mean, I pulled 3 of them out of there because it's just, it was interesting to see how many people were looking that way. There's a reason I have Superman here. I'll explain in a minute. I did find one with an L in it. My last name that starts with an L, and I started to put that up there. That's kind of self-preserved. So, one of the folks said, I want to have some control over the quality of the applications being pushed to production. Good. Good for you. This one said, I wasn't satisfied with the influencing power I had as a decision. Let me tell you something. If you get yourself hooked up into the mindset that you have to be in a different position to have power or influence, you're in trouble. Because you don't have to have a title to have the influence and power. You can influence up. These guys have mentioned it. You can influence upward, downward, backward. But don't feel like the reason you become a test manager or you want to be a test manager if you're not one is so that you can have more power. You got power. You know, we all do. It's just how you use it. And this is where I brought the Superman thing, because I laughed at the fight for justice and equality in terms of the living. This person is serious. I'm sure they've got a Q. I looked for a Q, I looked for it forever. Could not find a Q on the shirt. So this person said they wanted to guide and shape how testing would be a louder voice for good testing. Great response. I liked it. They have their head right. And I didn't think about this until this person wrote this one. And this testing is kind of its own little internal project management activity. We have to have a lot of good communication. We have to have an eye for detail. We have to have a greater vigor. We have to have good communication skills, like I said, going throughout the whole life cycle. So it's kind of like a project inside of a project when you're doing it. Easiest bit of SDLC. I put it here because who in the world wrote that? Were they drinking? Seriously. I don't even know why they would say it. But I put it up there just for you. It excited me to see it, and I thought it might be the easiest bit of SDLC. I don't know what, maybe SDLC means something else to them. So question number 2, what 3 to 5 things would you do differently if you had the authority to choose your date? 148 people of the 274 told me what they would do. I wanted you to see this. This got me. I hope it gets you. Nothing. When I see a better way to do things, I don't wait. No meetings, no attempt at consensus. I just get it done. Sounds really good. Sounds like a nice guy, right? I'm a hard worker. I get things done. But then he says, people who have a list of 3 to 5 things are managers or observers. Okay, they're observers. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if I agree with that. I know what they're trying to say. I know they're saying that I get things done. I'm out there and I'm aggressive. But you should have 3 to 5 things you want to do at any given time. That's why companies have 3 to 5 year plans. That's why we have a schedule of to-do list when we come to work. If you don't know what you're going to do, you don't have plans to improve, you're stagnant. You don't need to be stagnant.
Sorry, I get a little, I like teamwork.
I wanted to look at some of these. These are kind of around coaching and educating the team internally. I wanted to change the mind of my peers who have resigned themselves to continuing to do exactly what they're doing right now with no desire to learn new things. Anybody got that problem? Yeah? I'm sure. And it's tough. You know, yeah, you're probably at a conference and the people you work with are saying, this is crazy. They're on a boondoggle, they're having fun, they're out going to a Padres game. It was cold, it wasn't fun. It was fun. Ignorant people think testing is easy. Yep, they do. They do. But how do you change that? You can't change people by begging them to change and think of you differently. You can't do that. It's not going to help. You have to show them why that they need to respect you. You have to show them why that there's value to what you're doing. This is more on process improvement. Some of the answers I got, I really like this one. I don't know if you guys are doing this. We talked on this. Aligning QA metrics with business objectives. We've got metrics out the ceiling today. But are they talking about business objectives? Do your business sponsors really care about what metrics you're using? Do they care about how many pass fails you have? Do they care how many test cases you've run? They don't. They want to know, is it going to work when I get it out the door? And you need to align it to what they really want. I thought it was great. Whoever wrote it, kudos to them. The power to reject requirements that have not been defined in sufficient detail. Another one of the red ones for me because, hey, we don't define requirements. If you define the requirements, you're in the wrong room because we just validate them. And we make sure that what the customers ask for and what the developer has done is right, and we validate, we verify that it's been done correctly. Ensure that the test hardware is available earlier. Hey, there's a reason that clouds are getting more involved in companies, that we're getting virtualization, because companies are getting tired of needing more hardware and not being able to support it. It's getting more popular in companies, even mine, but people want it, you know. It's bad if you get everything set up, you get your test cases done, you got your processes ready, your team's ready, and where's my card? I got the keys, but I don't have the card. Implement the Test Center of Excellence model for cost-effective testing. Okay. Test Center of Excellence is not about cost-effective, not a bit, not about it at all. In fact, it's more about building a process, having a process in place where you have standardization and people are doing things the same way. Everybody on the team, if you move them around, they'd still do the same process. You've got a reporting structure. You've got, everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing, and your structure for that testing group, you know all the components, and you're able to measure it and quantify it. It's not about cost effective. You can be cost effective whether or not you have a testing center. I kept looking for this thing that does a plug. I have a plug right here. I'm teaching a course tomorrow on Test Center of Excellence. So cost and benefits. I really like this. Whoever wrote this, and maybe you guys have already thought this and you're saying, well, why are you not getting this first, Mike? I mean, I had it. You don't have it. But this kind of touched me. Access the risk in terms of cost with mitigation and contingency. And what this person is saying, I'm assuming because I don't know who they are, is sometimes it costs you more to mitigate it and to resolve it than it does just to let it happen. And you have to decide that, and you have to know whether or not you're going to spend tons of more money to mitigate it and keep it from happening than you are just to say let it go. And that's as a testing organization, as an organization in general, you need to be able to assess that. And then this is one we don't do, and maybe you don't do, is put a money value on the requirements. Great idea. It sure would help with risk-based testing. I go with the more expensive ones to test and do those first. It helps you with some of the planning in your organization if you did that. So I don't know if anybody's doing that. It was an interesting note of what they would do differently, which means they're not doing it either. This one was fun. I intentionally put this one in there because I know there's a lack of alignment in a lot of organizations. And I wanted to see if there were 136 people tell me what their alignment problems are. I'm going to give you a few. A lot of my organizations use bad metrics. I really wished I could have educated senior management. Okay. Metrics is not bad. Not knowing how to use metrics is what's bad. Not knowing what's the right metrics. Don't do it because it's a shiny new object. Make sure you know what you're using them for, and make sure you know that it's right for your organization. I think that's a key thing. There's a lot of people that believe either way on this, and then you can have a long discussion if you join Twitter right now. Thanks, Rex. Lack of agreement on who owns the decision to move to production. As we mentioned earlier, I think that's a big discussion. Now, it doesn't matter which way you go, but you all have to be in alignment with the development team, the stakeholders, and this is who owns that decision to move to production. My personal opinion is we report the status, they do the decision to move to production. And then test cases and scripts versus exploratory testing. I've had a lot of folks give me some input on that. Maybe our testing team should do the worry about the test cases. Maybe our BAs and our tech writers and our other folks in the group should, from a business standpoint, should look at exploratory. But there's various options here, but we definitely should look at that. We shouldn't leave it out there. It's new things that are out there. We should look at growing as a group. These are fun. Manual testing. Management thinks that manual testing is a burden. Test automation is the only efficient way and will reduce costs. They do. I can tell you. They do. Importance of getting certified. We'll go into full detail on that. I have been before. I think if that is something you feel is important in your organization and important for you, you need to do it. But it's not a requirement for you to be a knowledgeable test expert. It's something that helps you to be, if you get certified, you get certified. And I'm not against it. This is great. Automation reduces the cost of testing to near zero. Saying that is like saying walking on a treadmill takes me places. I don't get it. But I'll tell you, there's a lot of organizations that believe that.
So Mike, I'll share with you one way in which this appears, and I stress that word, appears to be not an idiotic falsehood. And it goes like this. If your automation is happening under the development umbrella in your accounting spreadsheet, then that number, whatever it is, gets rolled up under development instead of under testing. And it makes testing look like it costs zero because you moved it in an accounting spreadsheet into a new bucket.
That is a good point. See? That is my brother. That is a great point. You're exactly right. That's why someone would justify that. I learned something, and I always want to learn one thing. Ever complicated question about what is good enough quality? Trust me, your organization's not going to be able to measure quality until you know what good is. You got to know what good is before you can say it's good. Ratio of testers. I want to tell you, this person says it's 1 to 7 in my organization. I believe it should be 1 to 4. I'm not going to tell you what that number should be. I mean, I know what my number is, but it's just based on the organization, the size and the complexity of the operation. But you need to find that number. You need to figure out what it is. And you need to be able to stick to it and not let people push it down to 1 to 7. I think 1 to 7 is probably pretty fine. Whoever wrote that, they're in bad shape. They're probably interviewing for jobs. A lot of talk about value testing early and the reality of not consistently getting the test team involved early enough. Now I'll tell you, the one thing that I noticed here is we hear a lot of discussion about shift left. Let's get involved early. I'm going to be up in the requirements phase. I'm going to be working with you guys early. And then the developers and the business team open the doors and say, well, come on in. And then you go, well, I don't have people I can put on it just yet. I can't do that. I didn't really mean I wanted to. I just want to tell you that I should be there. So I've replaced the term shift left with get it right, because you need to make sure that if you can, then go ahead and find some calls to get out there early in the requirements phase. It's a good thing to do it out there. But if you can't support your own fight for that cause, then be careful, because they may open the door and say, come on. And it happens. So that's the end of the survey, and like I said, I wanted to give you a few things that I had from a leadership standpoint. I don't know how many of you guys are test managers or managers in your company, but I had a few things that I wanted to share that kind of followed me along the way. Be sincere. People will know if you're not. They will see it. It's like, I used to say, I see a dog. He knows when I'm scared, he's going to bite me. But if he doesn't think I'm scared, he's not going to bite me. I have one about me anyway, but that's the issue. I provoked you. That's a great acronym. Do what you said you would do. I started practicing this about 1.5 years ago, and it changes the perception of people around you. And what you do is, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's your family, it's your office, it's your friends. When you say something to somebody, hey, I'm going to do this. Hey, I'm going to call you tomorrow. Write it down, put the time you said you were going to do it, and do it. And you start becoming a person that everybody says they're going to do exactly what they said they're going to do. And it just changes. It's easy. It's simple. And all you got to do is do it, and then write it down. Never say they work for me. That's something I've been prided on for years. Is if somebody is my subordinate, and I present them to somebody else, and I say, this is so-and-so, they work with me. Because they don't work for me. And I want them to feel that way. And I've had folks say that over the years. He always says he works with me. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. And I think it was designed that way, so you can listen twice as much as you talk. Be consistent with your team. Always protect them. Praise in public, criticize in private. Now, I've praised and I've protected my guys in a meeting, and I took them to the back corner afterwards and said, don't do that again. But if they know you're going to be consistent like that, you're never going to let them down in public. It goes a long way. They mentioned this morning in the keynote, DeMarco and Lister. These guys wrote a book called Peopleware. One of the things they said is people under time pressure don't work better, they just work faster. And eventually they won't work there because they'll quit. Watch how you put pressure on people. A guy named Jeffrey Fox wrote a book called How to Become CEO. And in that book he said, look for ways to make your boss look good and your boss's boss look better. Trust me, even if you don't like your boss, some of you may have that problem, you can change the perception of them. It might change the whole relationship if you try to make them look good and help them. Don't blame me if it don't work. It will work. You'll be surprised. Doesn't matter how your relationship is. The drive-thru's not always faster. This isn't from a book, this is from my head. But I've sat in drive-thrus and watched them get out of their car, go and buy their food, and go back out and leave, and I'm sitting there going, why am I doing this? First of all, why am I eating here? But most importantly, what I'm trying to say there is, if you're in your company and you're doing something and you're saying this is the way it's supposed to be the most efficient way, maybe there's a better way to do it than to do it that way. So be open to new ideas and how you do things. Tough. This one's tough. Being remembered for keeping calm. That one's for me, if it isn't for anybody else here. I don't do it very well. You can ask my family. But I'm trying. Find your passion. Like I said, we're a passionate group of people. 274 people, almost all of them said, I'm passionate. I love my passion. I love my testing. It's important to me. I look for pictures of somebody hugging a test case. And be that boss. Now, the thing, and I've got a friend who worked for me for 8 years. She will not say, you're my best boss. And she knows I am. But she determines not, so that I can't say that everybody that works for me says I'm that boss. But when somebody says to you, you've been in courses and somebody says, think of your favorite boss. I want to be that guy that people think of that worked for me and says, that's my boss. I have a friend, like I said, she won't do it. She'll give me 3 other names of people. Survey takeaways. The thing that I took away from the survey that we did was 43% of the people believe that the test manager role is not defined. It's bad. It's not too bad. What it means is basically there's no perfect job description. We don't, being different's okay. Best practice is probably no longer a practice. Most companies are probably doing things a little bit differently. You're probably not going to open up a book and say this is the right way to do test processes or methodology. But you can work with the general community out there and find out how other people are doing it. You can start doing things the way everybody's doing it. Maybe it's not the best practice yet, but it could be. Process improvement, like I said, this really disturbed me. The 7% of the people have no time for it. 69% are saying they only have 25% or less. Which means you're coming to work, you're doing your job, it's the same old way, it's the same old 1974 car. You're not changing anything. We need to think about that. People need that. It's eye-opening. I'm amazed that every time I open up my iPhone and I start using something, it starts suggesting things because I bought something online and Groupon loves me. I'm the worst Groupon customer because I buy something and it goes, oh, by the way, you can have this and this and this and this. The suggested selling, the business, what is it called? I have it written down here. There's a process that looks at how I'm buying, my buying patterns and saying, the world is changing, is what I'm trying to say. And we've got to look at, consumerism, pervasive computing, big data. Everybody's talking about it. It's a buzzword out there. Learn it. Figure out what's happening with big data and then get your hands around it. If you don't know these terms, some of these terms, get very familiar with them. Understand what they are. Be the one advocate in your company that everybody says, well, I don't know about context-driven testing. I don't know about Agile versus Waterfall. I don't know about acceptance test-driven development. But I know Mike does, so I'll go see him. You want to be the expert of the team and educate the others on your team about what you're learning. You don't have to buy a book to do that. There's communities out there. There's Twitter people talking like crazy. There's LinkedIn people talking. There's blogs. I've got a link that sends me to 100 blogs. Like I said, In another week, if you go to my site, I will show you the sites you can go to see some really good guys who are on a top 100 list of testing blogs to look at. At least 4 of those people are in this room right now. So, social media, its impact on testing, you really need to be looking at how the world's changing, how you need to change. We can't test the way we did 20 years ago or how we did 5 years ago. Things are different. How do you stay relevant? Nothing spells like success. The late Stephen Covey, one of my favorite phrases of his is, you got an action, you got a reaction to it, and you're successful. And then the world changes. And now you're unsuccessful because you're still doing the same stuff that you were doing before. What they're saying there is, stop staying stagnant where you are and start moving with the company, start moving, I mean not the company, but start moving with the world. Start moving as things, the testing world changes and then it evolves, you need to evolve with it. 82% of you guys believe it's important to stay relevant. So what are you going to do? Well, you got to stand up. And to stand up, you have to have conviction. And to have conviction, you got to have knowledge. So how do we get that knowledge? What do you do? Watch these organizations. See what they're doing. Even if you don't agree with them, see what they're doing and compare them to the other ones. Start looking at these guys. Figure out you don't have to support one. It's not a football team. You don't have to say, well, I'm all about this one, I'm not about that one. But look at, because these 3 in general are doing things differently. I learned of a third one I need to put on there yesterday. Join LinkedIn groups. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you can see the ones I'm following. It's not all of them, but it's as many as I could find. They're just test management, testing. Attend conferences. Check, you got one done. Follow me on Twitter, @Lyles. Look for hashtags out there. Everybody know what hashtag is? Kind of a buzzword now. Look for one that says testing. If you want people to notice you on Twitter, put something on Twitter and put hashtag testing at the end. Of course, make it be about testing. Don't say but make it something about this and people will read it. Talk to the experts. Let me tell you, I've been honored to talk to some serious experts, both in this survey and both before. And what I found is they're willing to talk to me and they make me feel like that I'm important when I talk to them. Like I said, there's at least 4 in this room right now. And they make me feel important, and I thank all of you for that, because you guys have really been supportive to me. Read blogs, I've got one for you. Doesn't have a whole lot yet on what I'm telling you, but if you go out within a week, so put it down within a week, and if you're interested in seeing more of this data, I'm going to put a blog out there, a link where you can either put your email where I can email you when it's ready, or you can send me a note from there and subscribe, and then you'll see whenever it's ready to go. But I'm putting this data out there very soon. And that is it, and I did it with 3 minutes to spare. Any questions from anybody? I know we went fast.
I have one. It's not really just for testing, but in your leadership advice, one of the things you said was to, find your passion. And I was curious, if you're really passionate about your job and testing, and then your other one was be calm. So how do you suggest if you're all really into it and the situation isn't going so well, how do you stay calm?
That's a very good question. I think it's calm is not about the passion side of it. I mean, you can show that you're passionate about what you do without being loud. And also, being calm is not always about being quiet. It's about making sure that you have control over your emotions, I guess, is what I'm trying to say there. Sometimes I'm very, very open and very forceful in my discussion, and I don't feel that that's an issue. I think it's calm still, but I'm very forthright when I speak to people, and I keep my cool. I hope that helps. Okay. Guys, thank you so much. I just love this so much.